Welcome back to the Football Fitness Federation podcast. This is episode 222. I'm delighted to be joined on the podcast today by Matt Donnelly. Matt's the lead medical, rehab and performance coach at Accrington Stanley. Matt, how are we doing?
All good. Yourself?
Very good, mate. Very good. It's been a little while since we've had a proper catch up on it, so it'd be good to get into what's been going on.
Yeah, definitely.
No, thank you for coming on, mate. I appreciate it. We go back a little way, don't we? Because we spent a bit of time together at Wigan, which I'm sure we'll cover in a little bit. I've also mentioned is what
some cold nights on the astroturf and rainy days, moving off goals. Yeah,
mate, there was. I'm sure we'll get into a bit of that in a little bit. But I've just mentioned your role at Accrington now. But take us back, mate. Give us the story. What's led up to this role?
Yeah. So I went to Rezzil University, studied sports therapy, and on the degree on my placements, I worked with Liverpool's academy and also done like an international academy, and from them placements, that sort of guided me into the roles where I stepped into pretty much straight out to graduating. So I worked for a team called Airbus UK. They play in the Welsh Premier League, but that was through my placement provider, Richie Partridge, who was the physio at Liverpool's under-21s. Just sent me a text one day saying, "Are you free to cover some game?" And I was like, yeah, that was keen as anything, wanted to do anything to like try and impress me providers. And before I knew it, I was meeting a group of lads just in North Wales to try to fresh start in a way. So pretty much a couple of weeks in my third year it was, so I was on placement waiting for the team. No one knew there was a physio bag turns up, and I was running on in front of a couple of hundred people. And somewhere in Wales. And then also that year, as I said, on the international football like academy run by a couple of coaches who also worked at Wigan. We spent 2 weeks with them, got on really well. And again, just after graduation, there was a post came available at Wigan. So I applied for and sent them a message to say, listen, I've applied for this job at your place. You think you could put a word in for me? And they put a great word in, and I got like a casual role with the club. But at Wigan, I was able to work from the under-8 to the first team within 2 years. And I felt that was something, a great achievement, and what the club allowed me to do, from working with the PreAcademy, going on a Monday, working with the under-7s, the under-6s, if they had them in. And then within 18 months or so, I was working with the schoolboy release with yourself, doing the warm-ups, looking after the lads, getting them ready for the scholarship years. And I sort of progressed with a few of the age groups into the scholarships up in Paul Billington out with the 18s, and then the 23s physio left, so I got asked to step up. So within the same week of working with the under-8s, I was working with the under-23s, and there was a time where we had to go in over Christmas, and I remember saying to Russell, who was the head physio, I was like, you know, that's New Year's Day, don't you, Russ? And he was like, yeah, come in, mate. And I had some plans, and I was like, well, right, okay. I had to come in and do an assessment, and I think because I came in on that day and showed that I was committed, and he obviously didn't smell the alcohol on my breath from the night before, he said to me to come in and the next day and be on, help them out for the first team game against Huddersfield in the Championship. So that was great, and I had some great times at Wigan. And at the time, I was still working with Airbus within the Welsh League. And then an opportunity come with Bangor City, who was turning full-time the next season. Enjoyed my time with Bangor, unfortunately, because of financial reasons. They got into a little bubble with the league. But they also qualified for the Europa League then the following season, so it was a bit of a kick in the teeth. And from Bangor, the opportunities came up to go to Accrington. And I was just sort of working part-time with Accrington to start. And after a couple of months, the manager came, spoke to me and said he'd like to offer me like a full-time deal, full-time contracts. And been there ever since. My role's changed over the years since I've been there. But yeah, it's been a long couple of years since graduation. I can't believe it was in 2015 that I graduated. So I can still remember my graduation day. But yeah, it's been a long but short road as well.
Well, across that time, mate, you've not only obviously worked with a number of group of players, but different ages. Like you said, if we go right down to PreAcademy under 6, right up to first team level. What's the experience been like between that when you're taking those really early academy ages, working up to first team? What's been some of the key differences for you?
I keep saying no because I still work with Everton's academy to keep my hands in. Although I'm full time at Accrington, I still like to work within the academy setting because I say it to a lot of therapists and physios who meet children are one of the hardest clients to work with in a way because they don't fully understand their body yet. So they're telling you that they've got a sore hamstring, but the holes in the quad, they don't really know the body, and some of the tests what you do to sort of eliminate a few things, they'll say, yeah, that's sore. And that's nothing to do with the injury, what they've come to say. So working with the younger age groups, I do find it more challenging in that way, but then you've got to adapt to what you're doing. And then working in the first team environment where winning's everything, and that 3 points on a Saturday, you know, it means a lot to everyone who's around there, and it almost sets you up for the weekend. If you lose in the changing room, it can be a lot harder, and you know, people's jobs are almost on the line. And then you can go back into the academy setting where the kids are just running around and they're still full of energy after the game, and they won't be able to tell you on the Monday morning if they won or they got beat on the weekend, or that they scored too, and it doesn't really matter. So it's great to have both sides, and it's great to work all the way up. And at the moment in League One, some of the players we've worked with, like Carl Joseph, Jensen Weir, all coming through the academy, and you're seeing them develop from a young age into being a regular starter in the league. It's great to see that, and it's great to have that connection with the players, and especially when they come up to you and they say, "Hi, Matty, how you doing?" And you think you might have played a tiny part in their career, but they're still coming up to you and speaking to you. So, it's great.
Yeah, 100%. Because that, especially for coaches early in their career, it's quite a hard one to get their head around, isn't it? Because everyone thinks that natural progression is to go academy, get experience at academy, go through to first team. But I think what you're talking about there, it's still picking up different experiences, isn't it? Like first team, very much on results. Like it has to be based on performance. That's just what first team is. And I'm sure we'll get into it, but the amount of games that you're dealing with, keeping players fresh across the whole season, across the squad. Whereas academy, very much focused on development. And like you've mentioned a few players there that we work with, like you see those players develop so much over like a short amount of time as well, don't you? It's a place where as a coach, you can be quite creative, I think, as well. So exactly. It's really hard to decide what sort of path to take, isn't it? But I really like the fact that you sort of keeping your toes in with both.
Yeah, even at the start, as when I was working with Airbus, pretty much straight after my graduation, when you were speaking to everyone on graduation, they're like, "Oh, what are you doing? What are you up to?" And I was like, "I'm working with this team in Wales. We just qualified in the Europa League qualifier. So 5 days after my graduation, I flew out to Croatia for the first round game. So it was unbelievable to do that. And then the week later, you're back in the academy where there's not that much pressure, but I've just been on an international flight to a different country, and it's a really big high prize. If we was to won that game, it would have been, you know, career changing for some of the players. They would have been more in the spotlight, and to get that extra win bonuses and stuff for them players, it's you know, they're still working. They were still semi-pro footballers, so getting a win bonus for them, you know, can help pay their mortgage. And then, as you said, dropping back into the academy where there's a little bit less pressure on the results, and it's just more about making sure the player develops as a player, as you said.
I've said before that, like, across these few years, you've got a lot of different experiences. So if I was to say, if you were to speak to a younger coach, what would be your advice to pick up experiences like this? Because it'd be very easy to sit in one role, wouldn't it, for 5 years,
Yeah,
and see those
definitely.
5 years go by in a blink of an eye. But you've constantly, like, put yourselves in experiences that are very, very different. So what would your advice be for someone like that?
I think, as I said, my sort of career started when I was in university, and I came from placement providers. And when I have quite a good relationship with UCLan and get students in a lot of the time, and I say to them, don't just have this as your placement, go out and go and do other placements alongside this. And you meet more connections, and, you know, going to events such as yourself, speaking to different people. And that's how sort of some events and some opportunities can arise, is just getting yourself out there and speaking to different people. And also, don't be scared of taking something on. And I've covered American football games. I don't really know too much about the sport, but it was definitely great to do it, and it was definitely interesting to watch and just observe how people do different things. But it's definitely getting out there, speaking to people, and also just being yourself in front of someone as well. Don't be trying to overshow or overboast. Just be yourself in front of someone, and they'll go, you know what, yeah, I like him. I'll ask him to, does he want to come back and do this? So you just got to be yourself. And I say to the students quite a lot, don't be a dickhead. Just be yourself. Don't try and overshow and, you know, do everything right.
Yeah, definitely. You said before about your roles changed across your time at Accrington. So going in, I think you said you went in initially casually, and then obviously it's gone the full-time role now. So, but can you give us a little bit of detail on how that's transitioned?
Yeah, I got a message on LinkedIn of the physio at the time. It was Paul Caton, and he obviously seen my profile and seen that I had first team experience as well as like a academy experience. And at the time, Accrington just got promoted into League One, out to League Two, and obviously it's well documented that Accrington haven't got this large amounts of money. So when I spoke with Paul, he was like, "We can give you X amounts of money from the first team, and you can top the rest of your money up with the academy." So just doing hours with them. And as he said it, I just kept on going in, and he was like, "You don't have to come in on this day." And I was like, no, I want to come in. I wanted to impress, but I also wanted to learn as well. I wanted to be around other environments. Obviously that has a lifetime. I wouldn't have been able to carry that on for, you know, for years and years. But while I was still quite new into the industry, I thought it was a great chance for me to learn from someone else and to be around the first team. And I said that paid off, and the manager sat me down, offered me a full-time contract. And still, even when I was doing the full-time work for the first team, and then was still helping out with the academy on a Sunday, still doing them games just to top my wages up, more importantly, but also to get experience and to keep my hands in it. And then the following season, I was thrown in at the deep end. The club decided they wanted to do it under 23s for the first time, and then the head physio also left. So all of a sudden, the first week back in pre-season, I'm running the show on my own with an extra squad. So at that point, I had almost 30 players on my own. I had to get the students to help me quite a lot.
It's good you had the experience of an American football team then, isn't
it? Yeah, large squads and very little hands. Luckily enough, we got through the season, and we were able to look at it again later on into the next season. And Paul Morgan then become the head of like the medical service at the club. And he sort of overseen it, and we brought in a mother physio, to help out with the first team. And my role slightly changed, but I was still doing the running on from the season before, still running on the pitch and taking control of the rehab side of it. And that's when it sort of came more into just focusing on the rehab, taking the lads from the injuries, or I was the one assessing them on the pitch, taking them off, and then following their whole pathway through their injury. And then sort of the last couple of seasons, as I said, just more toned in onto the rehab. We've brought some other members of staff in, but he's mostly working with the under-23s now. So Paul's then went and left to join Preston North End, and it's almost back to the skin and bones as what it was a couple of seasons ago, with again a much bigger squad. I think we've got almost 42 players as in first team and under 23s. So there's, I think, driving home today, I noticed I had a grey hair in my beard for the first time. So I think that was this season starting to take its toll a little bit now.
A lot of people listening, when I read your title out, lead medical, rehab, and performance. Obviously, there's some clubs in positions where they'll have numerous staff on each one of those titles, but it's just real life, isn't it, with football, that someone like yourself is going to be spinning a lot of plates. One thing that comes to mind straight away is managing your time, not only with the responsibilities that you got there, but also, like you mentioned, the amount of players that you're dealing with. So how do you go about that?
I don't think there's any formula to sort that. My phone's busy as soon as I wake up to when I go to sleep. There's always a player or someone asking you a question about something. As I said, at the club, I'm the one who's managing the GPS as well as the protein supplements. So that's two more companies where I need to liaise with them if anything's going wrong, or need to order more bits. And then we haven't got a chef at the club like many other clubs, so we use a company to provide meal preps, and again that goes through myself. So the food, the GPS, the supplements is all coming through me, as well as my normal job of creating the rehab plans, as well as sorting the students out to when we're going there. And then alongside all that, I'm doing my masters as well as working with Everton. So if there was 8 days in a week, I think I'd still be busy. But at the end of the day, I'm working in the industry what I enjoy, and I can see, I've got an end goal in the game, and that's what I'm always working towards. Because, although it can be busy at times, there is a lot of time where you can get things done. And it's always remember to check in and to have yourself at the forefront, and look after yourself as well as looking after everyone else, and it's just doing the best what you can do in the time you've got. And I think when you're in them sort of situations, the people around you see how hard you work, so no one's ever going to be coming at you to say like, why haven't you done this, why haven't you done that? I think people who know you and are working alongside you understand what you're going through. So there is no formula to managing it all, but there are ways to manage it better.
Because you consciously or subconsciously, you must have created quite a few sort of systems within your workday of dealing with the amount of work. Like you mentioned, probably only some of the roles that you actually take on and responsibilities throughout the day. So there must be quite a lot that you've sort of developed and put in place where you're like, I have to have this in place for me to deal with everything. Because then also there's stuff that you can control, isn't there, that you know that's coming for the day, like a player coming in for a rehab session or whatever it is. But then there's also going to be things that happen on that day that you have to react to.
Yeah, definitely.
So
definitely.
Yeah, go on. Sorry.
Go on. No, having the students on board, obviously, with being such a small department, they can take quite a lot of the loads off themselves. And I send my rehab programs out over WhatsApp to the players at the start of the week, and it's almost they know what they're doing. So as long as they read that they have to come in at such a time for treatments, and that this time they have to go to do the prehab, and then this time that's when they actually do the rehab sessions, and that's what it consists of. As long as they've had a good chat with me, they've got some sort of ownership on that session and what they need to do. And I can always go to them, well, if you haven't done this, this and this, I can't do anything with you. So you need to go away and do that before you come and see me. And again, that frees up a bit of time and it allows me to manage who is seeing when I see them.
Yeah, quality. I wanted to touch on this. Will probably cover a little bit of our time at Wigan as well. But a bit of sports science on a budget, because there's going to be a lot of coaches out there that haven't got the millions to spend. Well, you've just mentioned some of the sort of initial, I'm guessing initial steps and additions that you put into the program, the likes of GPS, meal prep, supplements. How have you gone around that though, with limitations?
Yeah, I did. As you said, you know what, our time and, you know, working in the academy, as most people who work in academies will realise, you don't have the facilities what the first team have got. You know, most of the time you're out in the Astro, or, you know, you have a sports hall for half an hour. You haven't got everything, so you have to be inventive in what you do. You know, using your body weight is like, you know, you quite often done with a lot of the players, and you're just doing movements with them and trying them to get a better movement quality. And I think from that time of working in the academy on very limited resources and also working in semi-professional football, you can't go in and say to the manager, we need this, this and this. It just doesn't happen. You know, for you to say that you want to buy a barbell for £200, you'll be saying, well, that can be a player for me for a month. You know, it's not feasible for some clubs, but you learn to adapt, and then from that, I think that also helps for myself doing rehab sessions when I'm not going into a gym. I've sort of got a room and barely any equipment, so you have to adapt on what you're doing. Even coming into Accrington, when I first joined the club, they had a porta cabin 20 by 20, and it had like a home multi gym, a few dumbbells, what were all odds and rusty, a few like mats and a few foam rollers, and I think there was a bench with, you know, like the leg extension at the end of it. What was like the foam pads, like almost like a 90s home gym sort of vibe to it. That was when I first joined the club, and thankfully over the years and many emails and often peck on the manager's head, we've then able to get like a leg press machine, a rack with, you know, a hex bar, and a few of the Olympic bars, dumbbells, the cable pulleys, and a few spinning bikes. And you know, for a lot of the big clubs and a lot of the players who are coming on loan, they're sort of still giving an eye into the gym to sort of say, you know, you're happy with this, but compared to what we had when I first joined the club, you know, it's great, and I'm happy to say that doing work with the community trust with the club. We've signed a deal with Black Box, for the gym to come into where we actually train at the community hub. So we're going to have a mother gym for us to use. So although the two small gyms, we've been able to work it, so in both gyms we should be covering what we need to do. But still in that time, we've had to improvise on what we do, because we still haven't got all the equipment. We still haven't got all the fancy tester equipment what a lot of clubs have got. So we have to be inventive in what we do with the rehabs, and also you know go out to external of the club. So using stuff like St George's Park or Rehab for Performance, you know, it's great for us because the player gets to work in a high performance facility, as opposed to, you know, a converted port cabin of what we've got at the club. But yeah, it's just more building the time and building the case of getting to that point. But there's still ways you can work on a very small budget. We didn't have GPS when I first joined the club, and again, just sort of saying, I think Catapult they gave us on loan for the season, so we were almost like, yeah, you know, we're happy with this, and then that also gave us a bit of information to say to the manager, like, we could really do with this going forward. And luckily enough, the Catapult were really nice to us and give it to us for the second season under certain terms, and then he said around to us, now you need to start to cough up. So we finally done a deal with them to get the data, and that's something that I go through myself. Again, I'm no expert on it. I've developed alongside it, you know, just trying to get into certain data and learn from certain researchers and listen to, you know, some people who've been on your podcast, and to see what they're doing with their data and how they use it. But it's a case of just getting yourself in there and trying it out and seeing what works for you. Again, if I was to move on to higher clubs, I wouldn't be near any of the GPS data unless it was for specifically a rehab session. But I think it's good to understand the roles of different people in a club. So when you're working with someone, you can maybe give them a hand, or, you know, you'll have a better understanding of how a club works.
Yeah, you again picking up so many experiences in that role. But I think it's really interesting, isn't it? Because we talk about like different facilities, and obviously you've named like sort of Rehab for Performance, world-class facilities that players have access to. But then you see so many good programs being delivered in pretty bog standard gyms as well, don't you? Like players' mindsets being on point, and programs just dealing with what they've got in front of them. And there's a lot of people that spoke about it on the podcast as well, that not only from a player's perspective has it actually developed them, because they've had to sort of just get down to it and get cracking, but also as a coach, you have to be, again, you've got to be creative, haven't you? You've got to take it back to, what are we actually trying to achieve right now? Yes, we don't have all the fancy kit, but what can we do and what can we prioritize?
Yeah. And I think for a lot of coaches, and I know for myself, lockdown during COVID, that really helps with a lot of people's sort of thinking, because not many people has access to gyms, so you have to think of new ways on how you could possibly get that load, how you can stick that exercise down so you can do it at home on the stairs or something. You know, I think that sort of, you know, jogs a lot of people's minds into sort of stripping things back and maybe thinking, like, I had an Achilles rupture just before COVID, and working throughout COVID where we have no access to gyms, and how we had to use different sort of ways to combat it. I think lockdown for me, that really got me thinking about, right, how can we do this exercise without the equipment? But then all of a sudden, when you're given limited access to like a kettlebell, you think that you've got this, you know, high performance facility, but in reality, you've only got a couple more pieces of equipment. And I think a lot of coaches will relate to that. Is when you get given a couple of pieces of equipment, you're like, right, and do this, and this, and then once you get a bit more, you change everything completely. But there'll still be some foundations of what you used to do still within that program somewhere along the line.
I think the message for a lot of coaches, again, coaches probably earlier on in the career, is make sure you get these experiences where you don't have okay, if you're on an internship at a top club, great, you're going to have some amazing facilities, but also like you've done, pick up some experiences where you don't. Because I remember having conversations with you out on a pitch and be like, this is what we want to try and get out of this session, but we don't have any kit. So how are we going to go about it? And I think they're really key, aren't they? Like you need to have experiences like that.
Yeah, what we was the gift for the resistance bands also back in the day. You know, looking at the sheets and thinking, what can we do with them chairs over there?
Yeah,
that was the reality of it, wasn't it?
100%, 100%.
Yeah, I think having them sorts of fundamentals in your career of working with very limited equipment, it'll set you up for a much better career further down the line once you do have access to all that equipment. But for a lot of new graduates, you won't have access to that straight away. So it's better to have a little and then build yourself up, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely. Just going back to your current role now, with the size of the squad. Size of the squad demands of the season as well. Like it's a demanding league, isn't it? How have you gone about keeping players fresh, ready, repetitively for game after game?
Yeah, it's tough. As you said, it's very demanding game. You know, we're asking our players to run at least 10.5K a game, and we're playing Saturday to Tuesday. So it's almost like firefighting in a way. If you're just putting out fires, players get knocks. It's not their fault. There's injuries through training and games, which again you can put certain things in place like having recovery days, and trying to tailor the sessions and having a strong pre-season to make the player more robust. But again, I don't think there's too much of a magic formula, and especially at the moment for ourselves, we've really had a bad luck with injuries this season. We've had 6 injuries, what have required surgery: ACL, Achilles rupture, post tendon, ankle repair, proximal hamstring repair. All what it needs is like advice from top specialists, and going to have surgery, and then coming out for long term. You know, minimum of 3 months. Some of them out for up to 9. So again, they need a lot of one-to-one time and a lot of dedication into their work, and having such a large squad on top of having a large injury list, it's quite demanding. And you can also almost say that, you know, when there's too many games and you're thinking they're doing far too much, but the players you're playing, you still need to stay fit. So you need to find that fine balance of what's working for the lads out who are playing, keeping them fit enough, but not overdoing it so you're going to have more people on the treatment table.
And do you find, you said before about sort of putting responsibility on the players and saying, this is the work you need to do now, sort of go away and do it.
Yeah.
Do you find that with maintaining fitness, freshness throughout the season as well? Can you pull on, obviously you're going to have some younger players, but the older players, the experienced players, is that something that you can sort of pull on a little bit more from?
Yeah, definitely. I always say to we use the local market quite a lot. So we've had players from Chelsea, we've had them from Everton, we've had them from Man City, we've had them from some of the best academies in the UK, and it's very different for them to come into the club but hasn't got an S&C coach, hasn't got a nutritionist, hasn't got the sports scientist telling them what they need to be doing on this day, and they haven't got the TVs on the wall that tells them what time they're training and stuff like that. They're almost coming into a foreign Wales, coming into League One. And I try and catch them quite early, usually when we're doing a medical or on the first day. I say, this isn't like the club that you've come from. We'll do what we can for you, but you've got to have some ownership now and almost take some responsibility in your career of looking after yourself and making sure you're ready, because year on year I'll see it every season that players are sitting on the bench for a while, as like some new players will do, and then an injury happens and they're starting the next game, and our coaching staff want them to be ready for that game, and they want them to be firing on all cylinders and less than for 90 minutes. And for some, I've seen some really dedicated top pros who've come from the top academies and come into clubs, and they just get on with it. They love how it is, the way it's not so strict, as in they have to do SNC at this time. They can do it in their own time as such. And then some players sort of abusing the fact that there isn't an S&C coach there or a sports scientist who is very nice, get in the gym. You need to be doing this, or you need to be doing your top up runs, and it always shows when they come out and play on the pitch that they're not up to standards, and they don't end up playing many games, or they end up picking up an injury because the runs are worked. And that's just the reality of how it is. When you haven't got many staff, you can't really baby too many players. But also, I think for some players, and even speaking to them, they're happy that they come to an experience like that, because then they know going into the further career, they know what works for them and what doesn't, and what they can do if no one is there really. So I think it's as good experience for myself as it is for the players.
You see that mentality quite early, don't you, as well? I remember there was a number of players that we sort of worked with, and you saw that sort of, they wanted to do more. They'd ask questions. When you gave them something, they did it. They got on with it. But you're always going to have that number of players that, again, probably talent-wise is pretty equal, if not more talented, that just need that step-by-step approach, don't they? They need the hand-holding.
And again, I said it's knowing the players, and you know, I don't just have that conversation and leave that to them and say, like, well, it's up to you now. You know, throwing it in the deep end, like sink or swim. It's not a case of that. If you know that the player with the rehab set, I know that certain players who myself or one of the students have to be with and stay with them through the whole session. Because if you tell them to do 8 reps, they'll only do 3 reps. And you'll go and stand and talk to someone who's in the gym. And then there's some lads who, you know, you can just go, here's your session, go through a few of the exercises with them. And, you know, they're going to be as good as goals, and you can just pop in and pop out. As I said, with the amount of injuries what we've had this season, it's almost impossible to give them players the one-to-one time what you could do at the top clubs. But unfortunately, it's a case of knowing what players you can trust to go out and just work on their own, and also who needs that little bit more time of, hey, you need to work on this, or count them through that exercise.
Yeah, definitely. I just want to touch on one final topic before we get into the quickfire questions, and it sort of ties into that, is around long-term injuries, because I know there's current situations that you're going through with players, and I've had conversations on the podcast, probably recently with Josh Rice at Tottenham, where we were talking about, obviously, players on long-term rehab programs. It becomes tough for them, more psychologically than anything, isn't it? That they're away from
100%.
first team environment.
Yeah.
How have you dealt with that? Like, and also with it just being you, I imagine it's quite tough to keep them involved at the same time as getting their work done.
Yeah, it's speaking to the player more than what you probably speak to your partner at home. It's almost understanding what works well for them, and I'm quite happy with players going, you know, if they've got like a 9-month injury where they're going to be out. I've got an Achilles rupture at the moment and an ACL, where they could potentially be out, you know, a very long time, you know, best part of the year. It's letting them, you know, almost go home and relax, as well as when they're in the gym. You know, you're working hard, but the guys at Rezzil, I've worked with them during the rehab process of trying to keep it fun and interactive. As we haven't got all the equipments, but there's people who have got equipments, and when you reach out and you speak to people, the more than forthcoming with allowing you to use their equipments. And luckily enough, over the years, I've had connections at Blackburn and Everton and Wigan, where they've helped me out with long-term injuries, and for the player, as you said, psychologically working in a new environment and using different pieces of equipment. They love it because they've been using the same piece of equipment for weeks on end in the same four walls. So going out and doing something different, that I really like doing the virtual reality, the Rezzil, with a lot of the long-term players, because you haven't kicked a ball for a long time, and they feel like they haven't been in a game. Well, they haven't been in a game, and it's really good having the targets in place for players, and you can say to them, when was the last time you done this? And they'll go such and such, and go doing it now, and you can see the light in the face that they've done something what when they were in a dark patch they couldn't think they were doing. And it's something as when they're in a cast or in a boot, getting them to walk normal. And then when they're lifting, almost twice the body weight on a certain movement, you go, do you remember when you were struggling with walking when you came out of your boot? And sometimes the players, they forget what a certain punch they was in the rehab, and you'll get frustrated, and you'll go, they have like a little setback, but you go, let's bring it all the way back, and let's look at what you used to struggle with, before the surgery, or the very first part. Remember when you come to this, and it's almost checking in. But I think understanding the players massive part of it, and also understanding your limitations, as in what you've got for staffing wise, and also what you can do for the player if you think someone else is going to be shooters, or they're going to have better equipment, what's going to give you better feedback. Reaching out to them and say, listen, I want to do this with this player. Is there any chance we could use this piece of equipment to do it? And I think, a lot of people within the football and see the good people, so they will help you out if they can.
Definitely. Quality, mate. Really good. Let's get into some of the quick-fire questions to wrap things up. So I always ask, who have been some of the biggest influences on your career so far?
Strangely enough, I've known for a while I wanted to work in football, but I've also known for a while I weren't very good at football. So I knew that it had to be in a different capacity in some way. And I'm still season ticket holder at Everton, and Mick Rathbone running onto the pitch, I was thinking that's probably the closest I can get to being on a footy pitch, is running on. And from an early age, I was looking up, and I was sort of like sitting out in my seat seeing what Mick Rathbone's done. But yeah, I'd say that he sort of inspired me into doing what I'm doing, and working very close with Paul Morgan at Accrington. He showed me sort of the emotional side of the getting to know the players, and almost just doing everything he can to get them right, but putting the player first rather than the club first.
What a guy Mick is, by the way. Absolutely.
Top man. Still speak to him, dropping, and again that was surreal for me. So as I said, watching him run on the pitches, myself a little lad, but watching him run on the pitch, and he came and worked at Accrington for a short while. When Paul left, and next minute I'm ringing Mick Rathbone, and for myself I was thinking, this is bizarre. This, like, I couldn't believe it. And I was telling people who went the match with, I was like, obviously they weren't too fussed because they're not like in the physio or the sports science industry. But, for myself, I was like, wow, like I was amazed up.
Yeah, class. Matty, what would you say your biggest strength is as a practitioner?
I like to say that I'm putting the player first, so I always build up a good relationship with the fit players or the injured players, and just getting that sort of understanding the emotional side of it. Of I understand that it's going to be a bad time for them, and they might not be coming in singing and dancing every day, but that's sort of my job to change their outlook on what they're seeing the injury is, but also understanding that they can feel sad, they can mope about a little bit because that's something what they might need to do that day.
Yeah.
So probably the emotional side of the whole management.
I was going to add to this as well, because obviously there's not many guests that have come on that I've worked with. And I'll echo that, because I think if I was to get asked a question about yourself, I think that players trusted you because you had those conversations as well, because you asked the right questions in a way that wasn't sort of coach to player as well. I think a lot of the time you had conversations because it was genuine. You wanted to find out about whatever it was, experiences, injuries, whatever. So when players were working with you, there was no hesitation about getting the work done, or very, very often players wouldn't hesitate because they had that trust there.
Yeah.
So yeah.
We had a great group as well there, and like Joffy who's now at Leeds and Alfie who's at Spurs.
Yeah.
And as I said, Carl and Jensen who went on and, got big moves, and but they're playing regularly in League One. Sean McGurk, James Gallagher, like players who are going to have a very good career. I think very lucky to have some of the players in the academy there, and they were all now top pros, and at the time they were developing to be that, so it's almost easy to work with them, wasn't it?
Yeah. 100%. Really good group. What would be your top advice if you were able to speak to a younger Matty, maybe just coming out of university? What would be the top of career advice for yourself?
Good question, to be fair. I think just getting the experience, maybe branch out into different sports. So obviously, I've always had that almost like a laser focus on working in football. So, okay, I've done a couple of games for other sports, but maybe to branch out into athletics or something, just so I can see a different industry, and see how they work. I think that would have been beneficial to me, but yeah, just trying to get as much experience and possibly many different ways as you can.
And then also, what's your approach to CPD? Obviously, you mentioned the masters now, but continual development as a practitioner, apart from the 3 million jobs you have to do on a daily basis. How do you approach that?
I listen, I probably listen to most of your podcast. I class that as like a CPT because you're learning off of people. And I'm quite a visual learner, so if possible, I'll go and watch. I've been into four surgeries now, so I've been lucky enough to sit in and watch what a surgeon does. So I've had that sort of understanding of what actually happens during the surgery. And then when I'm working with the player, when a player says to me, "Oh, this is sore," I can say, "Yeah, that's because he was smashing it with a hammer in that part, and there's something actually screws into that part, so that's why that's going to be a little bit tender, mate."
Yeah.
But yeah, just trying to do as many courses as you can, and again, that can be a great time to network and get speaking to people. Like, I've spoken to many people who you thought they won't message you back because they're at, top clubs. But as I said, there's a lot of good guys in this industry, and they will give you the time of day when they do have the time. They might not message you straight back, but I think just having them conversations and picking someone's brains about one or two things, it can give you a lot of knowledge.
Yeah, definitely. Matt, if anyone's got any questions or they literally just want to follow what's going on, where would you direct them?
LinkedIn, or I'm on Instagram and Twitter, MD Sport Therapy on both of them. I've had it before in the past, plenty of students or even people thinking about going to university, dropping me a message and speaking to me. And that says I've had good relationships with universities about placements. So I might have said no to one or two people because we've got the students in, but there's always a time or place when we can get people in and I can speak to people, no problem.
Class. Really appreciate you doing that, mate. That was top to catch up. And yeah, we'll stay in touch.
Yeah, great. Cheers, Rafa.